The following presentation was made possible by Bank of America.
I'm Jim Kirchherr, and we are talking jobs, good jobs, high-demand jobs that are going unfilled. There's a need for people with skills and training, but not necessarily a college degree. What's happening in the job market now? And what can we expect in the future if this city, this region, this state are going to thrive? If the young people growing up here are going to succeed? And we have to ask, how do we define success today? How do we define job status? How do we redefine job stigma? We've got people joining us today from business, industry, education, parents and teachers and experts, and you.
In August, employers, job trainers, and community organizations gathered at the St. Louis Community College Forest Park campus for the release of the 2019 State of the St. Louis Workforce Report.
This year we surveyed 1,144 companies.
This is the 11th report by the college, which provides insight into our economy, workforce trends, and tracks the recovery, growth, and challenges of our region's jobs.
And things that we're hearing are that wage pressures have picked up, and that's a sign of productivity growth.
In 2009, the unemployment rate in the St. Louis region hit double digits, peaking at 10.4%. 10 years later, however, the unemployment rate for our area parallels the national trend at 3.6%. While the unemployment rate has recovered since the recession, the 2019 Workforce Report reveals a shortage of workers with knowledge or skills remains the primary barrier for expanding employment for our area's employers.
We at Solemn have struggled to fill and find the talent pipeline, and I think we see a lot of the same trends with a lot of our clients, particularly in the technology space.
Why? Well, for the last few decades, the push for students to attend a 4-year university right out of high school has been strong. Technical training, credentialing, those career pathways to high-demand skilled jobs that require some education and training after high school, but not necessarily a 4-year degree, often carry a stigma of underachievement.
When I finished high school back in 2001, it was just in my family, like, you finish high school, you go to college. Like, that was just what we were supposed to do.
But research says that 45% of students leave college and never graduate, many trying to enter the workforce with no credentials and a lot of debt. And many young people aren't aware of opportunities to career training and alternative career pathways outside of a 4-year degree.
Many people from my generation are most definitely looking for alternatives to college. Like, there are people that I've graduated with that they didn't know what a trade school was, they didn't know how to obtain an internship.
The good news? Business leaders, organizations, and schools have become proactive, working together to stop the widening employment gaps in high-demand skilled careers, while at the same time creating career pathways for young people.
But they began this program strictly to recruit and train and teach and develop this skill that we need.
And we have a room full of people who are ready to discuss high-demand skilled jobs in our region, including Carmen Jacob, who's the CEO of Next Gen Information Services Incorporated. That's a talent engagement firm headquartered here in St. Louis. Chantel Chandler, Communications Coordinator for North and South Technical High Schools. And Hart Nelson is here. He's Associate Vice Chancellor, Workforce Solutions Group at St. Louis Community College. But before we get to our panel and to our audience, I'm going to start with Governor Mike Parson, who's joined us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
We always hear the good news. We see an unemployment figure of 3.6. That's too simple for this issue. There's still issues that need to be addressed. There are things, no doubt, Missouri is doing well. But what do we need to do better?
Yeah, it's a good point. Even when unemployment rate is low, you still, when you can't meet the job markets that are out there, the demand of the jobs out there, it's still a problem. So you have to figure out what tools do you have, or how can you help with that situation. And I think one of the things you got to realize, what was mentioned earlier in the opening film there, that, you know, where are kids going and who is the workforce? First of all, you got to identify that. So who is that? And what you got to really look at is what is the workforce for the future, not so much today, but what is it for the future? And that's where I think when you look at our educators and our high schools, trying to prepare young men and women to really know what the demand is out there and to realize what it means to go to a trade school, what it means to get a skill, what it means to go to community college, what it means to go to a university. All of them play an important role. But the one thing I do know is you're going to have something besides a high school diploma.
What's the role in the state of all of this? Clearly, regions and towns and cities, organizations are taking a role in this. What does the state do?
I think where the state does is programs we did like fast track programs where we help somebody that's maybe fell out of the workforce or doesn't have the skills they need to skill up. It was a program that we did this year that we put, several $1 million behind it, trying to make sure we give young men and women the opportunity to go back to a skill set, to a trade school, to help them. That's one. But number two, again, we team up with the K through 12 education. We team up with the business community as government and try to figure out a solution where we start making patterns and we start doing things to help provide them the tools that they need. For example, One Start. One Start's a program we started last year for businesses, that they can now get specific training for their businesses, that they can tailor that to our schools, to our trade schools and everything, that they now have a say in what is really that workforce. And I think it's always important that you understand really what is the needs of the businesses and how do we need to train our kids, because that's the future. If you don't do that in that basic education level, then you're not going to meet the demands of the future.
Great, thank you. That's what we're here to talk about. Governor Mike Parson, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to go to Hart Nelson because we started out with the workforce report. A lot of numbers, and some of you guys love numbers, right? Some of you guys love data. But let's look at the trends. Now, this workforce report's been coming out for, 10, 11 years, right? So what do you see in this particular report, whether it's trends, things that are, succeeding or things we're falling short? What are you seeing in this report?
Thanks, Jim. We see a lot of things that are the same as we've seen in years past. And as you said, it's our 11th report. What that means is we've been able to see an economy that's gone all the way from the depths of the Great Recession on through full employment, basically now. And so what we've seen is an economy that is strong. This is a survey of employers. It's 1,144 employers, as you heard earlier. And it's a phone survey. So this isn't just folks who want to go onto a website. It is statistically valid, so we think that it's really a good snapshot. But because we've been doing this so long, we are able to see the trends. I agree with you. Some people like numbers. I like the stories that those trends tell. So what we see is hiring continues to be strong. Employers are saying that they've had a really good year and they've hired. They say that they are still having challenges finding skilled workforce. A third of the employers say that they are having a problem finding the folks that they need to fill the jobs they have open.
Basic question, and this is really what you guys are going to help me figure out as well. Why is there a problem?
It's not a perfect economy. And what I mean by that is, for example, a third of the employers overall say that they're having a problem finding a skilled workforce. But I heard at our presentation a good thing, which is averages hide the real story a lot of times. So a third of overall, but half of employers in manufacturing are having a problem. Half of employers in the skilled trades are having a problem finding the folks they need. And it is because, again, it's not a perfect economy. What I mean by that is we know that there are more jobs open than people looking for work, but there's not a clear path for those people who are looking for work to say, how do I get to that job? There's a lack of awareness of what is available out there and how do I get to that destination.
Carmen, I want to ask you, because you bridge the gap between the worker and the employer. Are the employers part of the problem as well? Do they not know what they're looking for? Are they asking for the wrong things from an available workforce?
Sometimes what happens is that, the expertise that they're asking for, sometimes it scares people when they see, the requirement, they need. And so they're willing to say, oh, I don't think I'm ready for that. So I think we should say more like, what do we really need to start the job? And each company has their own style of doing things, so it's a learning. You're going to come with expertise, but you're going to show them how to do it.
I mean, there's always been this issue when people are looking for jobs. You need experience to get a job, but you can't get the experience without the job. So these are some of the things that I know some of the programs that folks are working on, is to get that experience.
Yes.
Chantel, I want to ask you, from North and South in the technical schools, of course, there was a time when technical schools were vocational schools, and very often the places where people said, well, you're not college material, we're sending you to the technical school or the vocational school.
Right.
Is that changing? I mean, that has to be a challenge still today, because what you guys are doing and other technical schools are training people for jobs that are there, that pay well, and yet there still might be this idea, even from high school counselors, as well as from parents, that you're better than that.
It's starting to shift a little bit. We are seeing that career and technical education programs, which is what we call vocational training now, are re-entering the mainstream conversation about education, but the stigma still exists that it is a space for those who can't or won't be going to college. I think that's a critical part of changing the conversation to plug young people into these skilled trade areas that the latest workforce report is showing we still need trained workers.
I think that one of the concerns is the fact that we still have this idea that it's a one and done in terms of education and getting started. That you get to choose at 18, 19, that this is what you're going to do and it's going to be the rest of your life. And that just really isn't true. It's not the economy we have anymore, and it's not what we need to do if we're going to be successful as a region. And so the idea that someone can go into a technical trade or a skilled trade and maybe not go on for a degree at that point, but have that opportunity to go and pursue a degree or to get it while they're doing an apprenticeship, and then later in life go on and have an advanced degree, that's something that we need to get more comfortable with.
We want to talk a little bit about which of those fields are really growing and where the potential is. I wanted to ask the mayor, because she was so kind to join us today. Mayor, a lot problems in the city, I get that, but there's a lot going on. And I'm just off the top of my head, you've got Cortex, NGA is coming, Square is moving into a new headquarters, other things going on. How important is all of this that we're talking about to the future and the development in the city of St. Louis?
Well, I think certainly workforce development is so critical because, for example, in the city right now, we have 1,000 openings, 1,000 job openings. And many of those openings do not require a college education, but they do require good work ethic. They do require good soft skills, particularly for police officers and many other positions. But one of the things we haven't talked about today is we're talking a lot about the high school graduate, but we also have many people in our community who are not being counted in the unemployment numbers, but they are not working. They are 18 to 64, and they are not being counted because they are not working or not seeking work. We need workforce development opportunities to train those individuals, some of whom may be 25 or 35 or 45, into new skilled jobs where they can have a great job, provide for themselves and their families, and understand that feeling that you get, that pride that you get in a job well done. And so we need both. We need all of these things. We are missing out on the talent that those people have who are not in our workforce and who are not being counted. So until we're able as a community to really bring those folks out into our workforce development programs, we won't have as many skills as we need to have. And in an urban situation, you need a good transportation system. We do
and
need
maybe bike trails and things like that. So all of this sort of ties together, doesn't it?
Right. It all ties together. As we all know, it's a which comes first. But, you know, for example, in the city of St. Louis, we have SLATE, St. Louis Agency on Training and Employment. We have training programs, not just for 18-year-olds, but for 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds. We want those people in our workforce, and we're actively trying to bring them into the workforce because we think that the low unemployment number doesn't tell the full story here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. There are skilled workforce shortages across all industries. Healthcare, no different. Let's take a look.
Due to the increasing demand for health-related diagnostics, medical laboratory technologists have job security. And with the high number of these professionals retiring in the next few years, It also means that the need for skilled lab techs are in high demand.
Actually, this looks like a little bit of yeast right there, so we would call that...
Amanda Michelle is a laboratory scientist at Missouri Baptist Medical Center.
In the next 5 years, 19.4% of our professional population will be retiring, so that's 1 in 5 of our techs, assistants, technologists that will be leaving, so we do have a really high demand for positions in all laboratories nationwide.
At Missouri Baptist, in this lab alone, around 5,500 patient specimens are tested each day. The risk of a workforce gap in any hospital laboratory can directly impact patient care.
If we're understaffed, then we aren't able to release the results as fast as we'd like. It's not as efficient, and the doctors and the patients are waiting on those results that are going to be used for their treatment and diagnosis.
The key to plugging the employment gap in high-demand skilled careers like this one are pathways to credentialing and exposure to opportunities.
So what you need to start off with is 1X TAE.
This past summer, these juniors and seniors in high school took biology courses at St. Louis Community College's Center for Plant and Life Sciences. In this program, students learn to master basic lab techniques and methods used in life science research and development laboratories.
We teach them very basic lab techniques that they might use at a lot of different, job venues or academic venues. So the one we were showing you before was gel electrophoresis. So that's what a lot of scientists do. They have to measure DNA or RNA or protein and figure out exactly what size they are.
The college's Center for Plant and Life Sciences is located just behind the Danforth Plant Science Center and near many companies in the biotech industry. The students who complete this 2-summer program will earn a lab assistant certificate and 16 college credit hours, making them employment ready upon graduating high school.
So some people, when they get their lab assistant certificate, they go right into industry. So the biotech companies either in this building or in 39 North will pick them up and they'll be fully employed. Some of them decide to go for the associate's degree in biotechnology, so they continue on with our program. Without St. Louis Community College, they don't have that trained workforce, so it's a symbiotic relationship.
With me having this certificate program, I'm planning on being able to work 1 year and then going to college after that year.
With their certificate for a high-demand skill, these young ladies have career pathway choices.
So we have laboratory assistants, we have the medical technologists that are a 2-year degree, and then the medical laboratory scientists like mine, which is a 4-year degree. There's so many different departments in here that see hematology, chemistry, blood bank, microbiology. We're trained in all of them, so you get something different each day. So if you like waking up every day and doing something new, this job is for you. It's perfect.
And so let's go to Jennifer Irvin. She's with BJC, which I believe is our largest employer. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So this is a huge, I don't think we can overstate the importance and the growth of medical careers.
That is absolutely correct. And to be able to show, one of the things about when you think about the workforce, you don't know what you don't know. So we're excited to be able to show students while they're in high school that there is room for you to come and join an organization like BJC Healthcare and some of those critical, hard to fill jobs, which a lot of them are in the laboratory, but other areas of healthcare as well. They can come in right from high school, enter the workforce. As the student mentioned in that video, I want to work for a year and then explore options. Well, BJC offers them that opportunity in the lab to come in as a laboratory associate right out of high school. We train them to do that job. As they're working, they are able to apply for and be granted tuition reimbursement so that they can go ahead and fulfill that next step of employment or going to college and getting that tuition reimbursement for that. Laboratory is just one of many. You think about laboratory, you think about radiology, you think about all of those careers that students don't quite know about. We know they are aware of a doctor and a nurse, but within our organization, really any job that you can think about, there is someone within one of our 16 hospitals doing that job, and we're excited to be able to show students those opportunities.
It seems to me that the earlier you're introduced to these things, the more likely you are to either take to it or decide this is not my area. So you guys must see this if you offer a wide range of technical and skilled, classrooms, that people can make those decisions a little bit earlier.
That's one of the ways that I like to talk about the opportunity, particularly with parents. Because college is still the ultimate goal as far as parents are concerned for their child, talking about career and technical education and career exploration in the high school as an opportunity to try out college majors before you enter into this 4-year commitment.
Yeah, or spend a lot of money.
Spend a lot of money,
all, yeah.
yes. End up with, well, and I think that's reflected in the graduation rates that we're seeing, as far as less than half of the students who are starting a 4-year degree aren't finishing. And I think it's because we're sending them there.
That may be the traditional student now, right? That's part of the traditional student.
That's right.
Is one who leaves early.
Who leaves early or
with debt.
Changes their major a year in or 2 years in because it's their first opportunity. They've actually had to explore that career path. Bringing that to the high school level and introducing it at the middle school level gives students an opportunity to know a lot more about themselves, what they enjoy, and what they're good at before they enter into that post-secondary path, regardless of which one it is.
I want to ask Art McCoy from Jennings School District. This is an issue we've talked about before, but I wonder how much there's a sense in the African American community, or from a predominantly African American district, that this is the idea that your kids should be going into these areas, but the other kids, the white kids, can still go to college. Now, I'm not saying that's true, but there is maybe that sense in the community that for years, college has defined the success. That's where you're pushing people. That's where you're getting people. Now we're saying, a skilled job is just as good.
Well, I want to first say that when a student earns a paycheck while they're in high school, which is one of our 4 BHAGs, bold, hairy, audacious guarantees that students are well paid, but also that they're well dressed, that they're well spoken, and that they're well equipped to work immediately. Every kid gets a paid internship. And when our students come to school with $20 an hour paid internships from construction corporations, and they're able to have a living wage while still 18, 17 years of age, it quickly changes the idea for parents, because that's more money than some of the parents are earning. This is not an either-or proposition. It's both careers and college. And if you go into a career pathway for prosperity, many corporations will pay for the college that you need to do the job. So we are not only hiring students and guaranteeing 100% of our students get a college credit experience up to an associate's degree or a paid internship, but we're also extending that to our parents so that individuals up to age 50 and 60 are able to have the same partnerships with the corporations and the universities and community college.
Was there a stigma attached to non-college pathways?
Yes, there was a stigma to the point that people just feel like the positions are outdated, that they're not as smart if they go into something that's considered the old trade school. So we're rebranding the names of the jobs and even the education. It's not just like construction anymore. We're builders, we're creators, we're makers. And in our system, we've started the career pathways as young as kindergarten, where kindergartners are reciting the Hippocratic Oath. They're being matched with targeted mentors in the area of health science, BJC, and more. And we're having construction academies in 3rd grade, and they're builders. Because the reality is the jobs that our students in 3rd grade and 4th grade are going to have by the time they graduate, they don't exist yet. And so the language that we are using is already outdated, but it's definitely outdated for the 3-year-old, the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old. And so we just want them to have the power skills to be well paid. There's nothing soft about being well dressed, well spoken, well presented, and well equipped. This is about having power, equal access to great opportunities for a prosperous life.
Thank you, Dr. McCoy. You're doing great work, by the way, and it's always great to have you here. Let's talk about this historic sense that a lot of people, maybe people of my generation, have an idea of what the world was. And I was even thinking today, used to be blue collar, white collar, pink collar. Nobody would ever get caught saying pink collar today. But that was how it was. And the idea that manufacturing is dead, nobody manufactures anymore. Clearly people do manufacture. How do you see these people coming in, and maybe, Carmen, I can ask you, do they come in with old-fashioned, outmoded ideas about the job market?
Sometimes they do, but I think it's amazing that, you know, like in marketing, you know, you need some of this, you know, computer, you know, they can use a lot of computer, you know, and especially, you know, like in the labs, and it's, you know, they're using a lot of technology.
So I want to ask another of our guests, Jeremy, you want to tell us your story, what you're doing, where you are, and how you got into it?
My pathway to where I am right now in the IT field was non-traditional. I didn't go to college. I wasn't fortunate enough to go to college. Certain decisions in life took my path in another direction. But one day, I just so happened to pick up a job ad and saw a cybersecurity program for Slate. But when I went down there to Slate, the program had already ended and I missed the deadline. But it just so happened on the elevator ride down, it was 2 representatives from Empower there, and they convinced me to join Empower and just give it a go. They tried to sell me on the whole, it's completely free and all of that, you don't have to come out of pocket, it'll help you get in the IT field from college and all that. But I wasn't believing it because coming from East St. Louis, that was just a fairy tale.
You never got that message
before that? I never saw it. I got lucky when I picked up the job ad. Had I never picked up the job ad, I would have never known about Empower or Slate or anything like that. Mind you, I was working in St. Louis, but it was nothing in the IT field. So he convinced me and I joined the program. It was a 6-month program. The last 6 weeks was an internship that I interned at Worldwide Technology, and it gave me the necessary experience to, I guess, show them that I belong here, that I need to be here. You know, everybody else interned in the summer when school was out. I interned in November to December. It was a non-traditional internship, but it worked out for the best.
Kathy Osborne is here, right? Can we talk a little bit about STL Works, just exactly what it is, what it does?
Sure, happy to do that. Several weeks ago, we launched STL Works. It's a partnership of business people, nonprofits, educators, training providers, and government. And what we looked at is how many programs do we have? Where's the need? What does business need? And what we found is an interesting thing. We have a lot of programs. Not that we don't need some more, but we have a lot of programs. None of those programs are filled to capacity. So as we really looked at this nationally, a couple things evolved. Number one, there's thousands of jobs available where you don't need a college degree. A college degree is a wonderful thing. That's a great thing to have. But there's all kinds of jobs where you don't need that. And we've really developed a bias as a country, which is to say the only route to a job or success is college. We have to change that. So we think we've got a branding and marketing issue. So this collaboration now through STL Works, we've put most of the training and educational programs available in skilled workforce in a portal. We partnered with the Civic Pride Foundation. The reason is they're great at marketing, and we needed that skill set. And secondly, the community college, who's agreed to maintain this portal. So for a young person, or a not so young person, because we're looking at lifelong learning, if you're thinking about, hey, I'd like to get a job, and the mayor had a really good point. Those unemployment statistics do not show the full story. You just have to look at the Urban League Save Our Sons program, where they found people that aren't in any of those roles, and they wanted a job.
Let me ask, because something I heard, and this was a while ago, and I'll ask the panelists or anybody who wants to weigh in, that there were lots of different programs and organizations, but they weren't all talking to each other. There were jobs over here and a training program over here, and they weren't connecting. Is that still true? Is that improving?
I think that, I mean, there's efforts such as STL Works and such as Blueprint for Careers that are helping coordinate. I mean, the lack of coordination, we had talked earlier, it's not a perfect economy, or not a perfect market. So there's jobs open, there's people who are looking for work, or there's still limited, there's 32% of the people who aren't in the workforce. How do we get them off the sidelines and into the workforce? They've got to see that there's a pathway there. And that takes coordination and awareness of all these programs that are available. The jobs that are available, to know that that is something that I can achieve if I come from North St. Louis City, if I come from, if I'm in the part of the disability community, if I'm a justice-involved individual with 27% employment, that I know that I have a pathway to get to a career out there, and that it's a career, or a job that is going to get me what I need, a lifestyle that I need, it's something that I'm interested in doing. That's the inefficiency, is that it isn't always for someone who's looking for work, or for an employer who's saying, hey, I've got a great job available, how do I let people know about this? It isn't always apparent, how do I get the word out there? And I think that the websites and the marketing campaigns to say these are the traditional, non-traditional, traditional's gone. this is the way to get to the career that you need and that you want right now.
Jeremy had mentioned he was from East St. Louis, so I thought we should hear from Rhonda Soje, who's with Leadership Council of Southwestern Illinois. Again, when I think of Metro East in general, there's a great tradition of heavy manufacturing in one era. I'm sure that's changed, although there is still manufacturing there. But what kind of workforce, are we talking the same sort of diversity, the same sort of changes going on in Southwest Illinois?
Absolutely. So in Southwestern Illinois, we have all types of different workforce positions available, ready to go. We just need the workforce. So about 5 years ago, we partnered with business, industry, education, and the military to drive those conversations in our schools, K through 12. We start off with reading to kindergartners all the way through going out to all the high schools with speakers from industry so they can hear from the real people who do those jobs, and they can learn about all different career fields to say, that might be something I'd be interested in. Never thought about that. And with our military friends at Scott Air Force Base, cybersecurity is an incredible field. You have many transitioning airmen that are coming into Scott that want to stay here, work here, and live in our communities, and we want them to stay here and be part of our companies and our communities too. So we work very, very hard with the military to build cybersecurity careers, and we will continue to do that. But it's a grassroots effort. It's about being in the schools to talk to them. So we go out to all the schools from Granite City, we'll be in Chester tomorrow, to Cahokia, to Alton, all of the communities from urban, suburban, and also rural communities to talk to those kids about careers so that they can understand what the amazing jobs are and how to reach them. It sounds like an easy process, but there was so many parts that were disconnected, and we're helping to make those connections to make that smooth and easy for them.
Thank you. You mentioned cybersecurity. Tony Bryan's here from Cyber Up. Tell me a little bit about that field. I've been hearing a lot about it in almost every time we do something about this.
Absolutely. So the cybersecurity field is massive, right? I think, as Rhonda stated, that Scott Air Force Base is a hidden gem for our region that has tons of available opportunities and includes the corporate partners that exist across this area. The statistic is there are 4,524 unfilled roles currently today in the St. Louis market. We find that as I talk to employers, most industry professionals are looking for individuals, to much what Dr. McCoy echoed was aptitude, desire, reliability, and really doing that. So apprenticeship is a great way to fill those roles in a non-traditional way that doesn't require that four-year degree. If somebody is able to put in the work, put in the time, much like you did, it's a great way to get into a high.
I'm going to ask you a tough question. I want to put you on the spot.
All right.
But one of the issues I think for any employer is the idea that sometimes the young people coming in with the skills don't look like the young people who've been working in this industry for a long time. How do you overcome that? And anybody can weigh in on this, but how do we overcome this idea of a work culture that has not necessarily been maybe welcoming to people who don't look like the other folks working there?
That's a great question. And for us, we focus our recruitment on women, which represent currently around 11 to 20% of the workforce, people of color, which represent 13% of the workforce. And for us, a big part of that success has been partnering with great organizations like Urban League and Mission St. Louis and Beyond Housing to find those candidates and to be going into neighborhoods that somebody probably wouldn't go into and saying, hey, you can do this, leveraging our partnerships to bring those individuals, I think to your reference of, that look like they do, right, is important to model that behavior and say, I can do this. I remember one of our first early board members was a colonel at Scott Air Force Base, and as a young man, he met a pilot. And that pilot, the individual looked at him and said, you could do this. And from that moment forward, he knew that he was going to go do that and eventually pursue that in his Air Force career. So it's important to be deliberate and intentional and really reach out and do things differently at that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah.
Can I comment on that too? Because I think it's something Dr. McCoy said earlier and with Tony as well. These jobs, cybersecurity didn't exist as a profession 10 years ago. This is new. The third graders, the jobs that they're going to be in don't exist right now. And so there isn't a pre-existing bias for those jobs. And we just need to refuse to accept that. It's the fact of anyone can do these jobs because they haven't even been created yet. And what we need to do is make sure that the programs we're developing, the education that we're developing, is available and accessible to everyone.
Yeah, some jobs have the same titles, but a very different way to do them. Employers have to take the initiative to fill their own workforce gaps and address the stigmas that we've been talking about surrounding their industries, especially in manufacturing.
There's a common assumption and fear that advanced manufacturing, with its automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence, is eliminating the number of manufacturing jobs in the U.S. But with a tight labor market and widening gap between the jobs that need to be filled and the skilled talent pool capable of filling them, it appears manufacturing jobs are alive and well.
We have approximately 900 team members here that manufacture around the clock on the 3 shifts.
Wes Woods is the president of Toyota Bodine Aluminum in Troy, Missouri. Here they manufacture the engine heads for all Toyotas built in North America.
The advanced manufacturing needs are truly great in that, talking about the old school or the old type of manufacturing, we needed, just mechanics and electricians. Now we need multi-skilled technicians that not only have the basic mechanical and electrical skills that we need, but also technicians who can keep this equipment running, program it, troubleshoot it. This manufacturing technician today is quite different from the old mechanic, electrician in the manufacturing days of old.
Toyota as a company recognized that young people in particular weren't choosing manufacturing as a career choice, and they were struggling to fill their workforce pipeline with individuals with these important skills.
And as a result, what happens is our company is not as efficient, not as productive, and obviously not as cost effective.
Like many companies, Toyota Bodine is proactive in not just recruiting an advanced manufacturing workforce, but training them as well. Toyota Bodine, along with other companies like Nike, partnered with State Technical College of Missouri and created the Advanced Manufacturing Technician, or AMT program, as a way to fill their manufacturing workforce pipeline.
Deal with the pressure initially. My part in the project is to provide the background, the theory, the educational training, also some professional development and other factors that the manufacturers wanted in addition to the technical skills that they need from their multi-skilled technicians.
Students in the AMT program are paid to work 3 days a week at a manufacturing plant, spend 2 days a week in the classroom, and take general education classes online. After completing this 2-year program, these students earn their associate's degree and are fully qualified for an advanced manufacturing job.
There was a college fair at my high school and I went because I was looking for where I wanted to go, and they showed up, they told me everything about it. I visited for a open house and they had these robots there and they were like, here, try it out. And I was like, this is awesome.
Jordan Ward is a recent high school graduate from Olathe, Kansas. She's a first semester AMT student and as part of the program is working at Toyota Bodine.
This is more than I thought it would be. The training, especially that I got here, when I got here right away, they're like, sit in this classroom, you're going to learn everything about safety. We're not going to let you get hurt while you're on the job. And that was just really important to me because I don't know a lot. So knowing how to stay safe was really important to me.
So far, 58 people have gone through the AMT program. More than 90% of those were employed by manufacturers following graduation. The others continued on to a 4-year university. It's a win-win for everyone.
2-year debt-free degree, you can earn $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 plus, the variable programs of benefits and overtime and things like that manufacturing companies offer.
And we want to go to Nani Lawson, who is with the AMT program at Toyota. What strikes me is, we're always thinking about, businesses competing with each other, but there's some cooperation going on here among different businesses who need the same thing. Why would that be?
Yes, thank you, Jim. I'm so excited to be here to share the efforts that Toyota has made with other manufacturing partners to collaborate and work towards building individuals that support our talent pipeline. So we work together with 9 other companies to develop students and work with them 3 days a week and indoctrinate them into our work culture, and also build relationships with these students so that they can truly understand what kinds of jobs that we need, and they're also building real practical skills, technical skills, relationship skills, transferable skills that will make them very marketable, and we're super excited about that. And so companies are struggling, and before companies would compete with one another on in terms of hiring the same talent pool, and now we're working together to help define what those technical skills are, what those core manufacturing skills are related to safety, quality, productivity, problem solving skills, as well as professional behaviors that are necessary in all workplaces.
I wanted to talk a little bit about smaller businesses. David Burles is, there he is. Yeah, what's your point of view here?
The point is that the St. Louis economy used to be dominated by larger employers, which were great training grounds for lots of people coming through the workforce, and then they would move on and help these smaller companies and such. With the recession, we had a complete depletion of that talent pipeline that had existed in larger companies, and the larger companies, to a large extent now, say, hey, we can operate leaner. And so now the smaller companies have a new role, which is they have to develop raw talent that they used to not have to. And this is a critical new factor that small businesses need to take on, is the development of talent, because they can't just hire it, they have to now develop it.
Carmen, I'm wondering, in small businesses, are their needs, thank you so much for that point of view, by the way, but are small businesses needs different than some of the other larger businesses?
Oh, yes. In fact, I was kind of thinking it would be nice if they were giving tax cuts, for somebody kind of taking the time to training some of the people that, if it's small, you cannot be paying, the salary of, an employee, but you can start training them if you had a little bit of help from tax cuts.
And I think that one of the things that's key there, we've heard about apprenticeships today. When you have an earn while you learn, which is just critical. Our students at the college, they don't just want to work, they have to work. It's just a requirement. They need to have that income coming in, and it's key. It used to be with the larger companies that you'd set up an apprenticeship program, it's easy to go through the process, it's done. That's just not going to happen anymore as well. It is smaller businesses, smaller manufacturers, and there needs to be some change, some policy change, I think, at the national level, and was supported by the state. I know the governor is obviously leaning in on this to say, let's help smaller businesses develop these apprenticeships and make it easier for them to have these formal apprenticeships in place so that students, especially in manufacturing, can be learning, can earn, and that they get that degree at the end of it and the certificate that they need.
I want to hear from Maxine Clark, who's got a lot of business experience, Build-A-Bear, and now with Blueprint for Careers. As you're listening to all of this, Maxine, you've been involved as a CEO in a big company. Now you're doing a lot of work in the community. How are you seeing where we're going, this region?
It is absolutely one of the most exciting things I've experienced in all of the years living in St. Louis, to see all of us come together to attack the problem and the opportunity from different angles. But one thing I want to make sure that I connect the dots on, it's really important here, is that we may not be necessarily saying everybody has to go have a college education, but we have to make sure that they have a very high quality pre-K to 12 career, because you have to do math, you have to be able to read, you have to be able to communicate in order to get these jobs, but also to perform in the jobs. Bricklayers and all kinds of people in construction use numbers every single day. And if they haven't been taught those as importantly as they should have been, then they're going to fall behind. Those kind of careers won't even, if they're interested, they're going to not be able to get those jobs because math is an important requirement. So I don't want us to lose sight of how important pre-K to 12 education really is in our community, and making sure that all children get the quality education to pursue their dreams and the prosperity that Dr. McCoy talked about. And I don't think that we necessarily always put the focus on it that we should. So that's one thing we can't forget about. And the other is to make sure that we give kids an opportunity. I have the pleasure of traveling around to all the school districts to meet so many incredibly talented young people with just such bright futures, and we can bring those into our healthcare system, into our automation system, into our cybersecurity system, and they will thrive. And so we should be very excited about that. It's a huge opportunity. We have to remember that early education from preschool to 12 is incredibly important, more important than ever if they're not going to go on to get a college education.
Right. Thank you. We have a question from the audience or a comment. Go ahead, please. Tell us who you are.
I'm Dr. Catherine Matthews. I'm from St. Louis University in the Bander Center for Medical Business Ethics, but I'm thinking about this as the mom of a 15-year-old son who just transferred to a private school in West County, and to the questions about our different kids being tracked to different places, this weighs heavily on my mind. So I wonder, do any of these training opportunities intentionally work against the way that we're segregated in the region? Bringing kids from different schools so that they can do this training together.
I think that one of the key things on making sure that that access is there is we can't be everywhere, and the folks who are the providers can't be everywhere. Our force multiplier really are the teachers, the counselors, the folks who are in the schools. And there's some really great programs. I think RBC actually helps sponsor Show Me Careers. It's something the Missouri Chamber does, where that is their entire goal, is to get teachers and counselors out to visit different employers to say, here's the jobs available, one piece of awareness, but also they're visiting, for example, our Center for Plant and Life Science to talk about this is actually a pathway to get you to that biotech lab technician. Making sure that that's where that accessibility comes in, is making sure the folks who are in the schools across the region understand this is available, and to the point it's made, they're available to everyone. Here's how you get there. That's key.
I want to go to Shannon Bagley from Centene, a major employer, as you're listening to all of this. What do you have to add? What are you learning, or what do you want to teach us?
Sure. I would say that our organization has invested very closely with Dr. McCoy, with Jennings School District on internships, which then lead to part-time roles while individuals do post-high school training and development, and then ultimately lead towards full employment with the organization. And then we also work very closely with Coder Girl and Launch Code to try to bring in that additional IT talent from diverse industries that so desperately we need, and that also fuel the innovation and entrepreneurial spirit of the organization. But I would say, and even from a development of our own workforce, we opened the doors just this past month on Centene University. It was a major significant investment in the development of our workforce of over 54,000 across the nation and in this state. And so we're continuously developing our people and attracting individuals from different areas of the community.
Is it working?
It is. But I would tell you, the one challenge that I don't think we've talked about is public safety. And it is a real challenge that we see in both attracting talent to this community and in keeping talent. We know that individuals aged 25 to 44 are leaving this community at a rate 3 times faster than the national industry. And so we'll continue to invest in our people, we'll continue to invest in the community to attract and to develop that talent across this area. But I'll tell you, we're so concerned about it, both attracting people to this region and developing and keeping the people in this region, that we've not only expanded our campus in Sacramento, but we've also expanded our campus in North Carolina, because we simply are concerned that we cannot attract and keep the talent in this area just because of the national narrative around public safety.
I feel like I should ask the mayor very quickly.
Thank you. Public safety is completely dependent upon jobs and skill training. This is not public safety on this hand and jobs and skill training on the other hand. It is absolutely integral to having good public safety, to having a good educational system, having opportunities for young people. We are employing this summer through STL Youth Jobs almost 1,000 young people in summer jobs. There is nothing better than that. And long term, that's what pays off for public safety.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan Lester has a comment.
Hi, my name is Dan Lester. I work with Clayco, and so we work with North Tech. We work with Dr. McCoy over there at Jennings through our Construction Career Development Initiative, CCDI program. However, we keep skirting around the issue. We keep kind of dealing with it, but not dealing with it. And one thing we're talking about is the preparation of the workplaces that we're inviting these diverse individuals to come into. what we're not really doing is we're blaming and we're repairing people. We're showing them wonderful careers. Somebody's asked a question earlier, but we just stop. We just don't continue to get it. We have to make sure that our people, when they come into our doors, that they're going to be heard, understood, respected, and valued, and included in the conversation. Inclusion is more than just asking somebody to come to your place. It is asking their opinion and perspective, and then once you ask for it, acting upon it. So what some employers are looking for is they're saying that they're finding people, but they can't retain the individuals that they've trained.
They can't feel like I don't belong here.
Yes,
if
because
they
nobody's
have the
going
skills.
to stay where they do not feel wanted. And that's where imposter syndrome comes in, then all the things that come, and then people withdraw, and then they become not a team player, and then they leave the industry. So I'd like to hear from individuals in the audience and on the panel about what some things that companies can do or are doing to make sure that those individuals that we're inviting to that we're training and we're developing and we're saying there's a narrative, because while we have a 3.6% unemployment rate in those African-American communities, it can be as high as 36%. And so when we ask those African-American individuals and those disparate individuals to come into our buildings and into our workplaces, are those workplaces inviting those individuals even though they have the same skill sets necessary for the job?
This has to come up a lot.
I think one of the things that we heard in the workforce report event that we had was, and it was about young African-American men, 18, 24, people with disabilities, justice involved. And one of the things we heard for employers was, we just don't know what to do. And they're trying to solve it on their own. And that is where you run into issues. With the disability community, it was, why are you trying to solve it on? We're afraid of the ADA, we don't understand it. Well, why are you trying to solve that on our own? We have organizations like Starclough Disability Institute, Paraquad. We don't know what we're doing. How do we be inclusive? Well, have you talked to Urban League? Have you talked to Save Our Sons? We don't know how to deal with justice-involved individuals. Have you talked to Mission St. Louis? There are experts in this field, and we try to highlight some of them in our report, who will help have that not very difficult, critically, but extremely difficult conversation, something we don't like to talk about. I say that the story needs to include, for a young person, a conversation with someone who looks like me. And by that I mean not like me, but looks like whoever that young person is, as an example of success. It's that I know I can get there, but to your point that I think is absolutely crucial, once I get there, I want to know that this person that said, hey, this is a great career, is in a position of power, is in a position to influence, in a position that I can follow to get to the level that I want to be at. I would say don't try to do it on your own. That's the answer for employers. There are other folks out there.
Thank you. Again, I'm Jennifer Irvin with BJC Healthcare. One of the things, go back to the first question about what industry is doing, one of the things that we are doing at BJC Healthcare, we're trying to be a leader in that space, and so we're building out classroom spaces within our hospitals so that students from the beginning of the school year throughout the end of the school year are immersed in that culture. So we just launched a new partnership this particular school year with the Hazelwood School District, where within Christian Hospital, we have built out a classroom for students that are interested in healthcare. They come to that classroom within the hospital every single day. So just coming through the doors, they have a name badge that looks like my name badge when I'm at work, and they are able to interact with our professionals throughout the day, as well as explore their interests in health careers. And that's just one district that I mentioned. With 16 hospitals, I can say that we strategically try to partner our schools with the hospitals that are within their districts to launch programs. And if you're in a district that is not a partner with BJC Healthcare, please, let's have conversation, because again, we have a department, BJC School Outreach and Youth Development, that is dedicated from K through 12. So we get them K through 12, we have programs. And so we're really trying to make a dent in that space. Thank you.
Thank you. Got a question over here, I believe, or comment? Yes.
Hi, Linda Rallo. I'm with Aligned. One thing we haven't mentioned is childcare. And 74% of workers with children face breakdowns in childcare, and that costs our country $3 billion a year. So there are things that we can do as a community and businesses can do to either provide childcare, connect families with childcare, and build awareness around the issue. All of that will help reduce turnover in business, which is about 60% when there's a childcare breakdown. And I think that's an important piece that needs to be in our conversation when we're talking about connecting these people to work new jobs. Is making
If you don't
sure
have
we support
childcare,
them.
you're going to have to call in periodically, and then it might be said, well, you don't have the soft skills because you don't show up on time. But you've got two big jobs going on, right?
Yeah, and I just think childcare is part of infrastructure when you're talking about, long range, just like transportation and anything else. Employees need to have access to dependable childcare in order to be a productive worker.
I wanted to ask Dr. McCoy a couple of these things. Regarding the workplace, and I'm wondering if your experience either from your own students or students have gone on, have they come back and say, I don't feel I belong there, I'm not welcome there, you told me all these things, you trained me, you put me in a position, here's what I'm facing out in the community?
I would love to give a chance to give our students some voice because this is
Sure.
a lot of what
Like to
we're
hear.
talking about. I just want to echo a few points, or at least add a few points to the doctor from SLU who shared the question about exposure for all. There are some national programs that all of our school districts across the country can be a part of, which I'm pleased that our governor leads for Missouri, but it's called Jobs for America's Graduates, and it can be in any school district, at any place to get job shadowing skills, exposure to middle-level management, as well as CTE credit at any location, Parkway or even Rochester, New York. So I would say get engaged with that. The second thing is we're hitting on the difference between soft skills and power skills. It's soft for people who have jobs and have wages of $100,000 in social places, but it's power for those who may be in a rural trailer park or maybe in an urban area where there are gun shootings and everything else. It's power to get out of that, to be protected, to have a living wage, to have means, to have a productive prosperity in your life. And so the speed of your system not having access to this is the degree to which you think it's a soft skill. You keep calling it soft and it will be soft and it won't happen for you. But if you call it power, everybody wants access to power. And your children, your parents want access to power, and they'll get it to the degree that they communicate with people with power to help make that happen. And so that's what we are really discussing as a nation. It's the difference between us having power as individuals to have a happy, productive, effective life. I'm pleased that our students are doing that. I want to ask if...
Yeah, we can't hear from them all, so go pick one.
If one would give a short statement and stand up to, whichever leader wishes to stand first gets the mic first, so go for it.
There you go. He's got the power skills, I can see that.
My name is Devin Elkins, and I attend Jennings High School. I'm a junior, and really when we went out to...
Bring it up a little bit. There you go. There you go.
My bad, I ain't talking on my microphone. When I went out to Worldwide, I didn't really know anything about it, and they really helped me feel comfortable in the place because they really showed how diverse it was. I didn't even know Worldwide was founded by David Stewart, who was an African-American male. And to have me and my peers, my friends, go to that and experience that at the same time really made me feel comfortable and showed that even though I'm African-American, I still have a chance and I still have the ability to complete anything that other white kids can do.
Great. Thank you so much. Yes, go ahead. Another question.
Hi, my name is Jessie. I work with Launch Code. I feel like we can talk about culture and conversation all day. That's why I love that you brought this up. But I think what we're bringing into the conversation when we talk about HB 1139 is we're bringing policy, which I think is an important piece to this. Like culture changes, right, based off of the people involved. Like you're from Centene and you mentioned Coda Girl and Launch Code, and I love it. And I love that you support us. But if you leave and the person who comes in after you decides that that's not an important connection to maintain, what can companies do? Like BJC mentioned they have a department. What can companies do to introduce policies within their companies to actually back these things that we're talking about?
I'll say the state of Virginia just recently passed legislation that required all high school graduates also to leave with a certification. So that made the standard now be that career and college readiness is the norm across all school districts.
Thank you guys for coming, and thank all of you for coming in, really raising some really important issues and questions. And that's all the time we have. For more information about Nine's American Graduate Work and to connect to job resources in our area, visit ninenet.org/jobs. I'm Jim Kirchherr. Good night.